20 years of turning up the heat. Turn it up. Still blazing the airwaves. Hot FM at 20. The heat is on.
Welcome to Zambia's hottest radio talk show, The Hot Seat, exclusive to Hot FM 87.7.
Good morning and welcome to Tuesday's edition of The Hot Seat. I am your host, Chisha Muwambe, and this morning we're featuring the Football Association of Zambia President Andrew Kamanga. He's our guest today. Welcome to The Hot Seat, Mr. Kamanga.
Good morning, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. We're also live on Kwitu FM 93.3, also live on Kanele FM 97.7 in Lundazi. We're also live on the Hot FM Zambia Facebook page. So feel free to go ahead and watch and also leave a comment. And as the show goes on, we will throw it into our program here. So, Mr. Kamanga, what do you consider your greatest achievement during your tenure as FAZ president?
Well, thank you very much. I think we can pick it up from the beginning. I got into FAZ in March 2016, and that time we embarked on a program to do two things. The first one was obviously to align the constitution to FIFA because we had a challenge with the size of the council, that is the members attending the Congress, because previously you would have all the clubs from across the country participating in the AGM, and obviously FIFA felt that the numbers were quite big, and this is why in 2017 we reduced the size of the FAZ council from over 400 to just about 86. And that 86 was a balance between the Super League, National Division 1, Women's League, and then we also came up with the idea of decentralizing so that we take football to the provinces, and each province would then be represented first of all by the chairman, who would sit on the FAZ Exco, and then the rest of the Exco members in the province would then be part and parcel of the FAZ Council. So that's where that number of 40 comes from. Fast track to 2021, it was the first time we were conducting elections in all the 10 provinces, and the new executive was elected. So from where I'm coming from, decentralization for me is something that has made a big difference to the way football is being managed, because we've been able to take football to all parts of the country. Of course, the first term, which ended in March, allowed everyone to learn how to manage football in their provinces. And this is why, going forward, we expect that there will be more changes to empower the provinces to run football even much, much better. So that is the first side of it on the constitutional reforms. And then looking at the football side, again, starting from 2016, when I got into FAZ, the performance, especially of the senior men's national team, was going down from the time we won Africa Cup in 2012. 2013, the team was eliminated in the first round. 2015, we couldn't even win a game at the Africa Cup. So when we came in 2016, it was clear that the team was not going to qualify, and obviously we missed out on Africa Cup on 3 editions. However, we took it in our stride and decided to focus on redeveloping from the grassroots. And this is why we embarked on a program to invest more in the under 17 as well as under 20. In fact, we were happy to host the under 20 Africa Cup in 2017, which we won for the first time, and the team went to the World Cup and managed to get up to the quarterfinal stage. And then along the way, we also prioritized in the first mandate to invest in women's football. And I'm happy that today, women's football has done exceptionally well compared to the men's. If you look at where we are coming from 2018, the women's team has consistently qualified to the Africa Cup in 2018, 2020, 2022. And alongside that, we've seen the women's team going to the Olympics twice in 2020 Olympics as well as 2024. But most importantly for the women, they even qualified to the Women's World Cup for the first time in 2023. So you can see that the same programs we had put in to develop women's football have really paid off. Last year, the under-17 qualified to the World Cup, and just last week, we had the under-17 again qualifying to the World Cup for the first time. The story goes the same for all the junior teams. If you look back again, starting from 2016 right up to where we ended in 2024, we've consistently picked up the COSAFA championships at various stages, whether it's the senior men, senior women, under 20 men and women, under 17 men and women. And as a result, the work we did in the first term, which ended in 2020, gave us a push to prepare adequately, and the results started showing in the second term when we were able to qualify all teams to the Africa Cup in 2022 and managed to go back to the senior men's AFCON in 2023. And the same story repeated itself in 2024, where we qualified all the teams, under 17 men, under 20 men, senior women, Chan team, as well as senior men. They are all competing in the 2025 edition of the Africa Cup. So you can see that there's been a remarkable progression, which is obviously now giving us the result. That is why if you look at the manifesto I'm running on, it's a very simple one. The first mandate, we built a foundation. The second mandate, we've put up a superstructure. In the last mandate, which we are asking the members to give us the opportunity to save them again, is to put up the roof. And what do we mean by the roof? We are running on a platform to make FAS financially independent by the end of this mandate in 2029. But also, most importantly, before the first quarter of the year, we've had the under-17 men's team competing in Africa Cup, and as a consequence, qualifying to the under-17 World Cup, which will be played this year. So we are starting 2025 on a footing where both under-17 men, under-17 women are going to the World Cup. So and the rest of the other teams are going to the Africa Cup.
Right. You've spoken of all your successes, but what are some of the challenges or failures you've faced, and how have you addressed them?
Well, I think challenges will always be there because you can't have a one-way traffic, so to speak. And part of the challenges will obviously, again, start from the first mandate. If you look at the time we came in, as I said, the biggest challenge was to get the senior men's national team going. And I think with the background that I've given, we've been able to fix that. But also running FAS is obviously quite costly, especially for the national teams. In fact, I want to first of all thank the government for having consistently supported and sponsored the senior men's national team. And even with the senior women, it's under this current administration that they were considered in 2022 going into 2023. So today as we speak, government takes care of the senior women's national team as well as the senior men's. Now, all the other national teams, which is the under 23, under 20, under 17, we even introduced the under 15 national team for the first time. All these national teams below the senior are managed by FAS. So it means FAS has to consistently meet the cost of running these teams which are deemed as development. And to that extent, it's obviously a lot of money going into development. But from where we stand, it's not so much about what we spend. I think we take the view that spending money on these developmental teams is actually an investment, because ultimately we'll see the results with the performance of both the senior men and senior women. From the decentralization point of view, we've also improved on the team selection. We've allowed the provinces to also have provincial teams at under 15, under 17, under 20, so that when we are selecting the senior, or when we are selecting the national teams, we are able to draw from all parts of the country. And again, from a football perspective, we've been able to ensure that selection of national team cuts across all the provinces. And we hope that we can now, in this last mandate, also introduce the under 13 as well as under 11. And the reason is simple. FIFA has introduced the under 17 for both men and women to be played every year. Previously, it was every 2 years, and they've expanded the number of teams. So we equally have to prepare and ensure that we, at any given time, we have an under 17 team that is able to compete in COSAFA and then qualify to the Africa Cup and ultimately go to the World Cup. So from a development point of view, I think we've done reasonably well. The same will go for the training of the coaches. We've invested quite a lot. We've also done the same with referees. We've also upskilled the administrators. But the biggest issue when it comes to running football will always be the investment required against the resources that FAS will be able to put in. When it comes to resource mobilization, the Football Association obviously depends to a large extent on the funding that comes from FIFA. Every year we get $1.250 million. For a 4-year cycle, that's about $5 million. And then $3 million for a 4-year cycle is meant for projects. And then we also receive $350,000 from CAF. We also receive sponsorship from, previously we had Supersport, who were taking care of the broadcast partnership for the men's Super League. However, going forward, we've had an opportunity following the withdrawal of Supersport that will now reinforce and ensure that we extend the sponsorship even to the National Division 1. We've been able to secure a sponsorship for the Women's League through Eden. In the provinces, we are also pushing them to at least look for more sponsorship as they get support from FAS. So from where we stand in terms of the challenges, again, we can go back to the first mandate. We had a challenge with the kit sponsorship. As you would expect, we wanted the package which was a combination of both the equipment as well as the cash component. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the cash component. We started out with Kappa. They were able to give us technical support with equipment. We moved on to Mafro, who had promised to even put in $250,000 annually, but they were able to meet the equipment side, but couldn't manage the financial side. Arising from that, as a challenge, we obviously saw an opportunity and decided to create the Copper brand, which is a brand belonging to FAS, where we've now introduced it, and I think it has reached a point where it can now be taken to the next level commercially. And then on the development side of the game, I'm also happy to report that we did implement the Zambia Premier League, where we separated the commercial side of the game, where you have the Super League National Division 1 as well as Women's Super League and Women's National Division 1, which will run under the Zambia Premier League as an independent body, because it's purely the commercial arm of football. In fact, going forward, we want the Copper brand to be marketed by the ZPL, so that FAZ is basically going to focus more on running the national teams, as well as ensuring that the commercial value that comes out of Copper is spread across. One of the other areas where we believe we've done reasonably well is to support all the teams in the developmental leagues. We are currently giving all the teams a set of jerseys, footballs, and a grant that started around 2018, and we've consistently delivered. Of course, in some instances we've had delays, but I'm happy to report that FIFA this time round has decided that all the grants will be paid directly into the provinces, and the provinces will be able to administer the grants to ensure that there is efficiency and improvement in making sure that the grants get to the provinces. The other challenges, obviously, will continue on the administration side. I think we spend too much time on politics, which we hope will be behind us going forward. Because what we need to do is ensure that there's a system which is predictable. It's able to address all the needs of the members. And that challenge comes from the never-ending issues around having injunctions when you have elections. This seems to be one area where we need to find a permanent solution. As you would expect, our rules, as well as the FIFA rules, do not allow for third-party interference. They do not allow for court action. But we seemingly have a situation where those who are always getting injunction have perfected the art and circumvent the presentation in such a way that they could even use somebody who's not a member, who may not be subjected to the normal disciplinary processes, but you find that the courts are able to give out the injunctions. So where we stand now, I think we've reached a point where, going forward, we need to address this. We need to take a resolution. It's a matter that we need to appeal to the courts that these injunctions definitely have to stop, because...
How do you stop them?
No, but I think it's...
if people are aggrieved, then they are allowed to.
Yeah, but the point for me is that we do have within the FAZ statutes provisions where a member can seek recourse where they are not happy with a decision. We do have enough safeguards. For instance, if you are disciplined, you are allowed to go to the appeals committee. You are allowed to go to the arbitration committee, so you can take your cases all the way. And if you are still not happy within internally, you can go to the court of arbitration in sport. However, what we are seeing now is that, like I said, if it's not your member who's taking an injunction, how are you going to address it?
Do people trust those internal processes? Because
ideally,
if there's a lack of trust for that, then maybe that's why they're deciding to go to the courts, because they'll get a fairer judgment, a fair decision.
I'll give you an example. If we look at the current electoral process, when the call for nominations were made, members were made aware of the requirements, and all the members put in their nominations, and what came out was quite interesting. If you look at the presidential position, we had 8 applicants, and then only one went through and met the requirements. And the reason is very simple. The body that is charged with clearing the members, we're basically relying on an internal registration system, which is called the FIFA Connect, And this is a system which was introduced a couple of years ago. It's a standardized system. So officials and players are registered. For players, the window has a time, it closes, but for administrators, it's open. But surprisingly, we ended up in a situation where members were being disqualified on account of the nominators not being registered in that system. Obviously, people suspected that they could have been foul play because I was even accused. And yet these are independent bodies who are operating detached from the executive, and they have no influence under the executive. I'm also happy to report that following on from that process, those who did not succeed the first time, they were able to appeal to the Electoral Appeals Committee, which equally heard their cases and allowed them in. So today we have 4 candidates participating in the election. So it clearly shows you that the internal processes should at least be given the opportunity that they are able to work and they are trusted.
If you just tuned in, our guest today is the FAS president, Mr. Andrew Kamanga. Now, we've seen reports of some people threatening to go to the courts again, even after FIFA gave you 21 days to make sure that you hold the AGM. What's your assessment of that? Because it's still the same thing you're complaining about. Well, it's still ongoing. It's still someone. There's reports that we've seen on social media.
I've read of those reports, but from where I stand, I've never been a fan of court processes when it comes to football matters. Of course, in my individual capacity, I believe in the court processes. If, for argument's sake, you defame me, I think I've got the right as a citizen to take you to court. And there I'm quite firm, and I'm not going to compromise. But when it comes to football, which has clear rules, I do not support football matters being taken to court, because we have enough safeguards. As I clearly indicated, the committees available are independent. And in fact, if those who are going to court are our members, then they are subjected to the internal disciplinary processes. However, as I said, the risk that has happened that we need to manage now is third parties, because it means any guy on the street who decide to go and take out an injunction, which in my view, the courts also need to be more diligent and assess whether indeed whoever is making the application is going to suffer material damage if the meetings proceed or not. So if it's a third party who's a soccer fan or indeed a supporter of a candidate, why should that be allowed? So from where I stand, I do not support anybody. Even stories I've seen that some of them are my supporters. For me, I would like to distance myself. I've got absolutely nothing to do. I've always been ready for elections, and I see no reason why we should not have elections going ahead.
How do you think you fared during your tenure with the recruitment of coaches for the national teams, especially the men's? Because that's been one of those points where people say you have failed in that area.
Yes, I think what you need to understand is, again, where we are coming from. It took us a bit of time to get it right. Until Avram Grant came, we struggled with different coaches prior to that. However, where we've reached, I think we are strong enough to even go back to the Africa Cup twice in 2023, and we are going again in 2025. So prior to that, it was a struggle because it was also a combination of getting the right players. For instance, this time round, you have young players being given an opportunity to play in the senior national team. Miguel Chaiwa, who we started out with in the under 15, has now cemented a place for himself in the senior team. You've got Joseph Sabobo Banda is also been introduced. We've got quite a number of young players who've come through the ranks from the under 20, under 17, who are featuring. In fact, when you look at the current senior national team. It's a team which is built around the under-20 team of 2017, where you had the likes of Patson Daka, and unfortunately Enoch is out. But it's that generation who've now come in as the senior players, and they are blending well with the ones who are coming in from the junior teams.
So where did you go wrong with the recruitment? Because the players, we know we have quality players, but where were you going wrong with picking these coaches that would come in and not fulfill the targets that you had set forth?
Well, maybe it's a question of the funding for the coaches. And, to get a very good coach today, you need to spend a lot of money. In fact, we are fortunate that FAZ is putting in about $15,000 for the men's coach. The government is supplementing with $10,000. Even on the women's side, it's a 60-40 sharing arrangement. But prior to that, we had challenges because government only had the budget of 10,000. So until we were able to raise internal funds and increase that amount to 25,000, only then have we been able to get to a point where we can comfortably say we are doing well with the coach for the men's team.
And how have you been faring with paying these coaches? Because that's been one of those issues where coaches go unpaid. What's been going on there?
I think from our end as far as we've consistently met our obligations, but obviously when you have government paying in, there's a delay. Obviously, like the allowances even for the players, there could be a delay here and there. But I'm happy that the ministry takes a proactive position by informing the players and even the coaches that as long as you are owed, you still get paid. So from where we stand, I think we are on firm ground that commitments are being made.
There's never been a problem from the Football Association.
Well, from our end, it's not a problem because we are always providing for our obligations.
So what do you think are the proper steps to take to improve the men's national team's performance and competitiveness? Because we can talk about qualifying to these continental tournaments, but when we go and watch how the teams play, most times very lackluster and leaves much to be desired, and we crash out at early stages in these competitions. So what happens there to improve that? Because the Zambian fans are craving for more success at places like Africa Cup of Nations.
Yeah,
especially on the men's side.
Yeah. I think for me the biggest challenge will always be the clubs where these players are plying their trade. Obviously, we have the likes of Patson in the EPL. Kings is moved to Israel. He was in mainstream Europe. So what we need to do is to try and get as many of our players playing in Europe, and that is really going to be the game changer. Like I said, the likes of Miguel and Joseph Banda, they are playing in Switzerland. We've got 2-3 players in Italy. So if they can play competitively at that high level, then it becomes easy to bring them into the national team. Also, in the local league, we need to obviously attract the right caliber of players who can form the backbone for the main national team. So the selection is an ongoing process, and we really need to put in more effort. But as you would expect, these are decisions made by the coaches based on the teams they assemble. From where we are as a federation, we also want to make sure that there's progression beyond just qualification. So we think that this time round we will see a more determined senior national team going beyond the first round and obviously getting into the knockout stage and doing much better than we did in 2023.
And why is it that there's that question of the women's side? We've seen more success there than the men's side. In your mind, what's the difference there between the two?
Well, there's not a marked difference, except, as I indicated, we've had the women's game rising, and we've now reached a point where we now have to sustain even the success that is coming out of the women's team. As I said, they've been to the Olympics twice, Africa Cup 3 times, World Cup senior once, World Cup under 17. They are now going for the second outing. What is also clear for us is the background in terms of the leagues that we ensured that we created when we came up with the decentralization. Because prior to 2016, we didn't have women's football played in all the 10 provinces. Today, we have organized leagues for women in all the 10 provinces. We've got a national league as well as a super league, which is part of the ZPL. So when you look at the development pathway for women, we are able to produce under 15, under 17, under 20 players. And in fact, the senior women's national team has done exceptionally well, again on account of the quality of players that we have. And I'm happy that up until a couple of months ago, the most expensive woman player transfer was from Zambia. It was Rachel. And the second one was Barbara. Both have moved to America. We've also seen Grace Chanda going to join Barbara as well as Priska. So today we've got 4 players playing in the American League, which is the strongest league when it comes to women's football. We also have a few players going elsewhere. But what is comforting is that when you look at the under 17 for women, we can certainly get the comfort that the future is very bright. When the seniors are out of there, we will fill the gap fairly quickly because we've invested more in the juniors who are coming up in the ranks, and I'm happy that the new coach has also taken a deliberate step to also pick players from the under 17 as well as under 20 so that they blend. And I think the same concept that we are working with on the women's side just needs to be refined more on the men's side, and we'll get there.
Now, under your watch, your tenure, has FAZ managed funds? You mentioned the poor funds, where funds come from. Have you managed those funds prudently during your time as president of the association?
Well,
especially with infrastructure development, which has been pointed out.
Yes. 2 things I'll state here. When it comes to the projects, we did embark on a refurbishment of 4 stadia in the 4 provinces, namely Eastern, Northern, Luapula, and Northwestern. Unfortunately, we had delays. Out of the 4, we have 2 that have been commissioned and handed over. The other 2 have delayed for all sorts of reasons, but we are not giving excuses. I think we are at a point where even the remaining 2 are still likely to be completed because the funds for completion are still sitting in FIFA, because as you would expect, these projects are funded by FIFA and the payments are done on a milestone basis. So the expectation is that once the milestone for payments are reached, then we should be able to finish up. In Luapula, it's just finishing up the fence inside. The wall fence is already done. The same with Northern, it's just the final touches. But we think that we could have done much, much better. But there were delays on the contractors who were tasked to do the job. But we think that we could also improve on performance. So from that perspective, I think the projects have consistently been on schedule, though delayed. However, I must also state that we seem to have had a lot of misunderstanding on these projects, because the expectation was that we were doing modern stadiums, and yet the project was focusing on refurbishment.
Did you put that message clearly for people to know that this wasn't
it was
a world-class stadium coming here?
No, that you cannot build a world-class stadium with $290,000. And a big chunk of that was to just resurface the playing pitch, put in the grass there. And we had one contractor for all the 4 stadiums who was running with the pitch. And then, of course, on the peripheral, it was just cleaning up the terraces, putting in some seats, and, of course, enhancing the security where you put in the fences, both inside as well as the boundary walls. So that was the scope of the work. But when you hear people scream, 300,000 people have stolen money, but the bulk of those funds were going straight into the refurbishment of the pitch because they had to lay a new surface.
If you just tuned in, the Football Association of Zambia president is our guest, Mr. Andrew Kamanga. Very soon we'll be opening up the phone lines for you to come through and ask your question or give a contribution. So you talked about the deal with the Supersport coming apart. Tell us what happened in that situation, and then why was the decision made to have this AI camera be used in Zambia Super League matches that then just reduced the quality of matches, and many fans have complained about that?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think if you look at where we are coming from, we had Supersport running these transmission out of the OB vans. And then, unfortunately, I think the company was equally going through some challenges, and they needed to cut some costs. And also the environment, the operating economic environment here was quite a challenge. I think issues of load shedding resulted in most of the subscribers' base reducing. And obviously they had to take drastic measures. And one of them was to introduce the AI camera, which obviously was not giving the quality that we were accustomed to when it came to the delivery of the product. We even lost out on key areas such as match analysis, the replays, and all those areas. So when the decision was made to bring in the AI camera, I think for us we were caught flat-footed, and we did raise the issue with Supersport, and we were quite firm that that had been a breach of the agreement because we did not sign up for the AI camera. And arising from that, I think there was a realization that going forward, we were not going to get the best quality, the best value. And I think Supersport took a decision on their own because the contract was coming to an end in June.
So you were unaware that an AI cam would be
No, we had
games?
no such agreement. So it was just imposed on us, and we did raise concern that that was a breach of the existing arrangement. But their explanation was that it was a cost-cutting measure. So we think that we found ourselves in the mix of the economic challenges they were being subjected to.
So what's the way forward there? Because Zambian fans do not want to watch the Zambian game that way.
No, I think going forward, we are happy to report that we've since been able to find a new broadcast partner who's local, and they are coming in with a number of OB vans. They are also doubling up what we were getting from Supersport. We've also had the opportunity now to add into that equation the sponsorship for the National Division 1. And I think this time round we are putting in place a local solution which will even allow the local corporates to participate through advertising. Because as you know, during Supersport, you could not advertise on DSTV. So we think that localizing the partnership, it's giving us a much, much better platform to work with. It will give more money to the Super League teams. We'll have more money going to the National Division 1 for the first time. We will also have a contribution to the provinces where they will introduce cup competition for men, cup competition for women, and also strengthen some of the areas where we may have challenges, including meeting the obligations to the referees, as well as funding the administration in all the 10 provinces, including the main administration at FAS. So the new sponsorship package is giving us an opportunity to put in more money into FAS, but also on the other side, qualifying to the Africa Cup is bringing in a lot of money. I think we are happy that this year getting money from the new sponsor, as well as what we'll get from CAF in prize money, is really going to give us more money going into FAS, which we are going to deploy into the development of football. And I think this is why, if you look at the manifesto that we are running with, we are running on a platform of making sure that by 2029 FAS is financially independent. And we'll only be able to achieve financial independence if we are able to scale up the sponsorship, bring in more partners, as well as continue getting more prize money from the various competition where we are competing.
What can you reveal about this new sponsor? How much is being pumped in?
Well, I think the entire deal is for $10 million over a period of 5 years. I think we will see the Super League teams getting an additional 50% on the 1.2 million they are getting. If you recall, again, from the time I came into FAS, teams were getting as low as 7,000 kwacha, and today that amount has scaled up to 1.2 million, and with the new sponsor it will go to 1.8. This National Division 1 have not been sponsored for some time, and this time round in the new season they will at least get 500,000 kwacha each. And then in the provinces, the cup competition, for men they will get 100,000, for women they will get 50,000. And then, of course, we want to also take care of the interest of referees. So the money that is coming in is quite substantial. Alongside that, on the CAF side, you've got the various competition. Chan will give us a guaranteed prize money. If you look at the main Africa Cup for men, just qualifying, it's $850,000. You go to the next round, it's $1,050,000. You go to the quarterfinal, it's $1.4 million. You go to the semi-final, it's $2.5 million. You win the Africa Cup, it's $7 million. These are 2023 figures, which we are going to revise because I sit in the CAF Finance Committee. We should have the new figures for 2025, I think, in the next few weeks, when we adjust the prize monies for the various tournaments. Even the Women's Cup this time round, 2 weeks ago, we were in South Africa signing an agreement for CAF to a new sponsor who's sponsoring the Women's Africa Cup, a company called AGL Logistics. So we will see more money going into the women's competition. So from that perspective, qualifying is giving us and guaranteeing us a lot of money which will come into FAS. And we just have to be diligent. I think where we stand is to make sure that we don't lose the momentum. Next year we start the qualifications again. We have to invest. Like I said, government takes care of the senior men, senior women, but the rest of the national teams are taken care of by FAS. So just to give you an example and an appreciation, if you take this year's competitions, the men's under 17 went to Morocco, Just the air tickets cost us $150,000. The under-20 men's team is in Egypt. Just to get the team to Egypt, it cost $120,000. That's already $250,000 just on air tickets. And prior to that, the teams participated in the COSAFA competitions. All our teams in COSAFA, you don't even get prize money even if you win. So you are investing more, hoping that you get to the finish line, which is the CAF competitions, and get a prize money from there, and also get to the World Cup where you get prize money. So qualifying to the various tournaments is a financial motivation. You are guaranteed financial resources.
Now, we'll be opening up the phone lines shortly, but I just want to get your perspective on this. There's a big Kamanga must go campaign that we consistently see. People post, you see articles all over the place, people questioning the integrity of what happened ahead of the AGM, where you were deemed the only eligible candidate. So a lot of people look at you and they say, you've engineered this whole thing. What's your response to that?
I did explain in the opening remarks that we have a due process. FAS runs with two sets of structures. We've got standing committees which are under the responsibility of the executive, and we've got independent judicial bodies where you have the disciplinary, the ethics, the electoral committee. So these independent bodies run independently of the activities of FAS. So if you take the electoral committee, for example, they apply their rules based on the electoral code. And anybody who's going to qualify, there's a criteria. Just to give you an example, as I said, the registration process is under the FIFA Connect. So if somebody missed out and they were not registered and they were endorsing a registration, then it meant that their form had failed. So from where I stand, obviously I have absolutely nothing to do with the performance of the independent committees. Just like somebody who's sanctioned by the ethics, I should not take full responsibility because the process is independent from the executive. They run their own processes. But as I said, even when you are sanctioned, you've got the right to appeal. The appellant processes are equally robust to a point where people just have to trust the processes. So I cannot sit and engineer the failure of all the other members. But as I said, I was actually very happy, and in fact, extremely happy that those who failed in the first round were able to succeed on appeal, and they are now on the ballot paper.
Have you done enough to clear out that perception?
Well, it's
because that could affect your chances of re-election, isn't it?
Well, from where I stand, I think we consistently are in touch with the members. Those who understand have no issues. Those who politicize football have got their own perspective. So at the end of the day, we expect that our members will abide by the rules of football, because at the end of the day, football is a rule-based game.
What are the repercussions of this chance you've been given with the 21 days? We have the AGM now set in Kawe happening this week. If an injunction comes in, what are some of the repercussions we're to face if that were to happen?
First of all, it's actually quite grave. I think we were even fortunate that FIFA took a decision to allow us to hold the elections within 21 days. And I'll give you the background. The rules are very clear. Under Article 14 within the FIFA statutes, any third-party interference, whether caused by the third party or indeed the members themselves, you are subjected to disciplinary action, which includes suspension, even expulsion. And I think our situation was quite peculiar, in that the only thing which seemed to have saved us, because what happened in Livingstone in the presence of FIFA was a straight call to suspension. So would have had the teams not participating in all competitions, because once you are suspended, you cannot participate in any international competitions, and that was the risk we were running. But I think FIFA were considerate, albeit from a constrained point, because we've a situation where 5 of our teams qualified to the CAF competitions. In fact, the day we had the AGM in Livingstone, the under-17 men's team were already in Morocco. So having a suspension from FIFA would have meant the team coming back. The under-20 who are in Egypt would not have gone. The Chan team would not participate in the competition. The women's would have been affected, even the senior men. So we've actually been given a lifeline, and we should really not take chances with it, because I think we are at a point where we are really daring FIFA. The meeting has to go on Friday. The elections have to take place on Friday. Whatever happens, the members have to be united around having that meeting and ensuring that elections go ahead.
How do you fancy your chances?
Oh, I think my chances are reasonably good. I think the members have had the opportunity to see the work that we've done, and I do not foresee any issues. Of course, in an election, you are competing for ideas. Those who are outside have got their own perspective. Those of us who are inside, we are giving our perspective based on the work that we've done. As I said, if we look at the performance, both on and off the pitch, I think we've achieved enough to be able to get our members to give us support to continue presiding over the affairs of football.
And will you accept defeat if you lose?
Oh, look, it's like a football game. It can only produce 3 results. You either win, draw, or lose.
All right. Well, let's pick up some calls now. 0974-870-877. Call us now. We'd love to hear from you.
You're listening to The Hot Seat on Hot FM 87.7. It's time for you to call now and get involved. Call now and get involved.
All right. Call us now. We'd love to hear from you. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
Good morning. What's your name?
Moses. Mr. President, good morning.
Good morning, models.
Thank you. What message do you have for me, especially me who is thinking that you have failed because of largely the performance of the senior team who have been struggling, especially at major competitions? What message do you have for me? From this means that football is not just looked at maybe at the men's national team. And in conclusion, if all these negativities, concerning your family book, do you at any time think of maybe just quitting, or what gives you the courage to push on? Thank you, listen.
Thank you, Moses. 0974-870-87. Give us a call now. We'd love to hear from you. We have a presidential candidate for the Football Association of Zambia, Mr. Andrew Kamanga. Call us now. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Well, thanks. How are you?
Okay, my name is Philip.
Philip, please go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Kamanga.
Good morning.
Okay, first of all, I wish you the best of luck this Friday in Kawa. But then I have a question. You're on record of having talked about the Chipolopolo bond. So could you explain to us, the football followers, what happened to the Chipolopolo bond? Because you said it was going to bring in money to make FAS financially stable. Then my other question is concerning the World Cup. I noticed in this interview, you have not spoken about qualification of the senior national team in as far as World Cup qualification is concerned. You've been president now for 9 years, and in those 9 years, Zambia has lamentably failed to qualify for the World Cup. So what's your take on that? And finally, but not the least, so I'm asking a lot of questions. In your tenure of office for 9 years, Zambia has only appeared at the AFCON once. And I noticed that AFCON tournaments have been held 5 times. And surely in 9 years, Zambia has only appeared once. Why should councillors want to bring you back? What are you going to, what new thing are you going to bring to the table so that the councillors can bring you back? Looking at this record of 5 AFCON tournaments and Zambia only qualifying once. Thank you so much.
All right, Philip, thank you for your call. I know we allowed Philip to ask a few questions there, but you're only allowed to ask one question because we want to have as many calls as we possibly can. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Honorable President Kamanga.
Good morning.
This is Dr. Proud. First of all, I want to wish you and the Kisumwemba and the Kashala. Whoever will win, that's why we have got the independence, we got the Mount Party, including President Hakainde, want to competition, be it in politics, be it in football. I want only to ask you, on what measure are you going to put for Nkana who destroyed the stadium and in the future, be it not in Nkana or any scheme? Because this stadium, the government trophy, there is the money for pizza, money for hope, money for everything can do, being put it there. Now you go and watch a football, just because you don't agree with the rules of referee, you start destroying. So we don't need research, including everything in Kandu. President Hakainde, they want to go to country. That's why he told us if there's any issue, let us have a dialogue, be it in politics, be it in football, that is to destroy government. What punish are you going to put on Ghana? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your call. All right, we have Moses, Philip, and Dr. Proud there. Your response.
Yeah, thank you very much. Moses, thank you for your message. And of course, the negativity is part of the strength that gives me to move forward. I think, like everything else, you find there's positives and negatives. But to come back to your message, I think what we are doing is obviously addressing some of the challenges that I think I've elaborated on. And we hope that going forward, we should be able strong enough to achieve whatever we've set out to. I think I did share earlier the successes that we've scored, and it ties into the points raised by Philip, who started out with the Chipolopolo bond. Yes, we took a decision in 2020 to come up with a Chipolopolo bond, and as you would expect, there was a change of government in 2021, and we expected a bit of support from the government. Unfortunately, this is the same period when the government was going through the debt restructuring. We were hoping that would actually raise the Chipolopolo bond on the back of the women's team qualifying to the World Cup. However, I'm happy to report today, as I stated even last night, that raising money this time round is much easier because we have guaranteed income coming out of what we are expecting from the prize money. So, in fact, we are at a point where we can issue a Chipolopolo bond for a reduced amount of $5 million, which can be underwritten by our own internal financial resources. So I think the economic situation has changed for the Federation. Where we were in 2020 and where we are today in 2025, I think financially we are much, much stronger. Yes, to come back to your concerns about the World Cup qualification, yes, we are in contention, but our group has also had a few challenges. We've had Eritrea withdrawing from the competition. We've also had Congo Brazzaville banned from the participating in the competitions. The same thing that we are trying to avoid, because once you are banned, you cannot participate. So Congo Brazzaville is banned and they've been taken out of the competition. So we are remaining with 4 teams in there. There's Morocco, ourselves, Tanzania, and Niger. So we hope that the remaining games should be enough to see us get into the second round, because there's scope for the second best to go into a playoff, because FIFA has given CAF extra slot to have teams who will not qualify directly to go into the second round. So yes, you are right. In 9 years, we've not qualified to the World Cup. It's actually a record. It's 60 years. We've never been to the Men's World Cup. If you look at Africa Cup, we've only been in the finals 3 times, in 1974, 1994, and 2012, and we've only won it once. So to try and put it in perspective, this is where we need to put more effort and get to a point where we can have the senior men's team qualifying into the World Cup. In 9 years, and I can count for you, Africa Cup is every 2 years. We didn't qualify to 2017, we didn't qualify to 2019, we didn't qualify to 2021. But we've qualified to 2023, we've qualified to 2025. So for you to say we've only qualified once, it's actually not correct. So it's 2 out of 5 tournaments.
There's also a question of fan behavior, the whole Nkana situation.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Proud. I think the scenes we saw from Levy were quite disheartening. Like I said earlier, football has only got 3 results. It's either you win, draw, or you lose. And we would like to appeal to all the soccer fans, not just the Nkana fans, that damage to public property is unacceptable. Because in fact, we have a situation where they only have homologated stadium for Zambia is Levy. And even FIFA and CAF were concerned with what they saw. I think a report has already gone from a security point. We may find ourselves playing all our international matches outside the country on account of bad behavior from the soccer fans. However, Nkana has not been spared, and I think the relevant disciplinary processes will be taken. I think the ministry is addressing some of those where Nkana has committed to make some repairs. But we've also engaged Nkana officials, Nkana administration, where we can look for a lasting solution. And we've encouraged them that the education of their supporters is very, very cardinal. And I think they need to really invest in educating their supporters that the results can only produce a win, draw, or lose. Of course, the emotions that come are purely based on where was it a penalty, was it not a penalty. But that cannot justify that anger resulting in damage to property. So Nkana will be subjected to the relevant disciplinary processes which are provided for within the FAS statutes.
And just on officiating, there's been complaints about bad officiating. What are the steps that have been taken to improve that side of the game?
Yes, I think 2 things come to mind. You obviously have at each game, especially the ones under ZPL, you have a match commissioner, you also have a referees assessor. They are supposed to submit their reports at the end of the game. But the clubs also have the right to complain if there's an element of poor officiating. However, we should not excuse the referees where there's evidence that a referee has made some bad calls. I think now sanctions are being applied. Those who are affected are being called out publicly. But we also need to continuously support the referees with training and ensure that they are up to speed. We are also in the process of finalizing the introduction of the VAR, which we believe will go a long way in addressing some of these games, especially that we are now getting a new broadcast partner who have the opportunity to at least help us in that regard. So from where we stand, we think that we need to continuously invest more in match officiating, but also we need to get to a point where referees are paid adequately so that we take away the element of possible corruption, collusion, so that at least football is played on the same rules and it's basically ensuring that fair play is at play.
Let's pick up some more calls. Call us now. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning. What's your name?
Godfrey Nyanoka.
All right, Godfrey, please go ahead.
Sure. Mr. President, good morning.
Good morning, Godfrey.
Sure. My question, Mr. President, is on grassroots football. I think we cannot talk about the match qualifications to the Africa Cup or World Cup if we do not have the necessary. And I happen to be an administrator of one of the teams in Lusaka. And I must state to you, Mr. President, we are feeling the heat of managing, sponsoring this team. And I think you coming into power 8 years ago, it was one of those promises you gave us, the grassroots football, that you're going to come to our aid in terms of referees and other sporting infrastructure. But I want to put it on record, Mr. President, that in your 8 years term, we have struggled to receive even simple grants for five teams. Even balls, I think we are only receiving them during the recent provincial campaigns that we have struggled. I can put it on record, Mr. President, that Lusaka teams, lower division, Division 1, 2, and women's football, have not received the grants for the past 2 years, even football. So now, my question, Mr. President, if you are seeking for another 4 years mandate at Football House, what difference are we going to see us who are feeling the heat of removing or using our personal monies to manage this football? And this is the challenge that we want to keep your name as the president, to be a fruitful fuzz. You need to get talent from us, from Matero, Chivolia, Chainda. But you're not supporting us. What guarantee do you have that if councillors give you the mandate the next 4 years, you're going to look at the price of the grassroots football, the payment of referees, balls, jerseys that we haven't received? So I think that's my question. What difference are we expecting us from the grassroots, from the 4 years that you are seeking, if we haven't seen anything in the past 8 years? Thank you so much.
All right, thank you for your call, Godfrey. 0974-870-877. What is your question or contribution? Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's your name?
Felix Mukka calling from Mater.
Please go ahead, Felix.
Vandanga Kamanga, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm fine, Vandanga Kamanga. Kamanga, I've got a few questions for you. First, I'll start with the Kenya national team. You said
Felix, you can only ask one question, by the way. Only one question.
Okay, I'll ask one question.
Yes.
You said hiring of coaches for Zambia national team. If you want to hire a profile coach for Zambia national team, it's very expensive. And that's why maybe you are going for low profile coaches like Avram Grant. So what are you doing? What are you doing to invest so much in our local coaches so that we can't be struggling of adding coaches whom we can't afford to pay? It's better we start investing in our own local coaches. And lastly, you talked about promoting the local Copa jerseys. You said you had challenges in order for you to acquire people who should be sponsoring the jerseys. No wonder you went for the Copa jerseys, the local ones. So who are the legitimate sponsors of that local copper jets? Is it you first yourself, and how do you then revenue through selling those local copper jets? Thank you so much.
All right, Felix managed to sneak in a question there. 0974-870-877. Do give us a call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Ron.
Good morning. What's your name?
My name is Mwanza, calling Odingo.
All right, Mr. Mwanza, please go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Kamanga.
Good morning, Mr. Mwanza.
Yes, I've read all what you have said. The estimate done. Some of us will appreciate, especially for the girls, you have done the best. But my concern is over the referees. Your administration has neglected the referees. No wonder after Janska's, I don't think you ever produce another Janska's the way you have handled the referees. And the testimony is even the way you started talking. Not until somebody mentioned about the referees. You yourself, you never said anything concerning the right of the referees. This is why Keith member is saying he's going to pay the referees better, because he has seen that you have failed. For example, are you aware that those who came to officiate the playoffs last year were not paid up to now? And your elections are just 4 days to go. The refereeing has gone down because of your administration. Those who officiate in lower ranks can get as much as 80, as low as 80 kwacha for transport. How do you expect someone who stays in Avondale to come and officiate at the OYDC and get 80 kwacha? Not even Yango, you can book a Yango. So you have neglected the referees in your administration, sir. If only you could do something, but unfortunately, you have only 4 days to go. The refereeing standard has gone down because of the way you have handled them. No wonder we have a lot of problems when these guys are officiating. They make wrong decisions. Who knows? Maybe they are given something. So that's my submission.
All right, thank you for your call. Well, Mr. Kamanga, we had Godfrey, Felix, and Mr. Mwanza there. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start with Godfrey, grassroots. I think...
issues of no funding there.
No, but the issue is coming out of the structure. Like I said, Godfrey is coming from a club from Lusaka province. And this is all part of the decentralization, which I spoke about earlier. He raised complaints around not receiving the equipment as well as the grants. I think going forward, I'm happy to report to Godfrey and everybody else that the administration of the grants has actually been changed this year. We took a lot of soul searching, and we eventually managed to get approval from FIFA. In fact, they are going to pay grants for the 2 seasons, and they will pay directly into the provincial executive committees. So FIFA will pay directly into the 10 provinces without the money going to Football House. So you can be assured, Godfrey, that you will get the grant almost immediately. And going forward, every year the grants will be paid straight into the provincial executives. The same will happen with the management of the distribution of the footballs as well as the kit. But we also have to impress upon the provincial executives that the reason why we decentralized was to allow them to also get to a point where they can be looking for sponsors so that they are able to find more sponsors and supplement whatever is coming from Football House. So the team that has been elected in Lusaka province has got a challenge to make sure that they meet the needs of you who are running on the development platform. So from that perspective, we expect a much better performance of the executive, because in the first term, obviously, there were a lot of learning challenges here and there, which I think have been addressed. As I said, even the implementation, management, and even disbursement of grants will be undertaken directly by the provinces. We've also allowed the provinces to raise their own funds through collecting registration fees. So I think we've now reached a point where the provincial executives are strong enough to be able to run on the same platform like the way Football House has been running. So most of the activities will be handled by the provincial executives. To answer your question, Godfrey, on referees, I'll deal with it together with the issues raised by Mr. Mwanza. Coming to Felix, the hiring of coaches, what are we doing? Yes, it's not easy, and I'm happy to inform Mr. Mukuka that we've also been investing in training of local coaches. For the first time, we've got Mr. Wedson Nyirenda, who's going to be the first Zambian to hold the CAF Pro qualification. And Morocco Football Federation, through the arrangements we have with them, which is a cooperation arrangement, have allowed us to add in more coaches. So Mr. Bruce Mwape is actually going for the same CAF Pro. We've also been given 2 slots, and we are just at the point of ensuring that we identify the 2 young coaches who can go and train for the CAF Pro. Because at the end of the day, we really need to invest in local coaches so that they are able to manage and take on the various national teams that we have. To come back to Mr. Mwanza, yes, there's a concern around referees. There's obviously the element of poor remuneration. But as you would expect, the biggest challenge has been the scaling up of the activities. We hope that we will be able to push and find a dedicated sponsor for referees. In fact, when you look at where we are coming from, we've consistently been adjusting the payments made to the referees. They may not be adequate, but at least we know for a fact that we need to address the concerns. As I said earlier, we may have been failing to meet the obligations or give the referees a decent payout, or because of the challenges financially that we've gone through. But as I stated, the coming in of the new broadcast sponsor, as well as the prize money that will come from CAF competitions, will be enough to address the concerns of paying referees adequately. But most importantly for me, it's not just paying them, but we also need to continuously train them and also give them enough skills. Because today we have our referees attending the Under-20 Africa Cup, and for you to be considered for those tournaments, you should obviously be trained in VAR and all those elements. So we think we are doing reasonably well. Within the next year or 2, we should at least get to a point where we were a couple of years ago and have Zambian referees back in CAF as well as FIFA competitions like we had Jan Sikazwe. I'm happy to report that Mr. Sikazwe is actually spearheading the retraining of referees as well as the VAR side of it. And going forward, I think we are strengthening the management of the referees.
There's a message from Tony, who's watching our Facebook Live. He's asking about the issue to do with Fashion Sakala. Why hasn't Faz helped solve this issue so that the man can start playing for his country again?
Well, I think the issue of fashion, we've talked about it a few times. It's a matter that, like everything else in any institution, not so much the administration, but just the team management. The head of the team is the head coach, and obviously there were issues which were raised. We took a decision as an executive that we should open an inquiry because the information came out in the public domain. Unfortunately, those who were expected to participate in the inquiry did not, including Fashion himself. And behind the scenes, attempts were made to obviously get the two parties to resolve their issues. which I'm happy to report they got to a point where they were more or less resolved. But unfortunately, there was another angle to it, which is actually an even bigger challenge. Initially, we were convinced the matter was between the coach and the player. But
what was the real issue then?
Well, it unfortunately,
you can't tell us what the issue is.
I will share with you. That's why I'm saying between the coach and the player, there was almost agreement in terms of resolving the issue. But then it turned out that, in fact, the issues which had been raised even touched on the fellow players. So the fellow players also have a position where they expect that their colleague is going to go back to them and make peace with them. So this is the dynamic that...
So there's a rift between the players.
Yeah, because, for instance, comments were made that some of the players who are given attention are those who just score tap-ins, and it didn't sit well with the rest of the team, because, you know, football is a team sport. So if you say something about your colleagues, they also felt injured. So this is the dynamic that now needs to be resolved. So it's not just the player and the coach, it's now the player and the rest of the players.
Is there an end in sight for this, or will this keep on going?
The expectation from the players, they are saying at least he needs to make peace with them.
They want an apology.
I don't know what definition you'd want to call it, but from where we stand, we want to facilitate that engagement between the player and the players so that that matter is resolved. That is what we are working on. With the coach, I think we almost concluded. So there's only that element which is remaining.
Is the player willing?
Well, this is where now the issue of egos is coming in. If he feels he owes the friends nothing, then unfortunately we cannot be seen to be resolving. It's almost a case of the guy walks in, the rest walk out. So it's that issue that needs to be managed. From the outside, it looks very simple. From inside, I think it's a case of persuading everyone to drop their position and get a win-win position on everyone.
Well, at least we got some insight there. Give us a call. Let's pick up our last call, then we'll close the program. 0974-870-877. Call us now. Let's hear from you. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's your name?
Yes, you're talking to Wesley. Good morning, Mr. Kamanga.
You said your name is Wezi?
Yes.
All right, Wezi, go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Kamanga.
Good morning, Wezi.
Yes, I don't know, just tuned in. I don't know if you have been asked this question, but I want to ask, over the upcoming AGM, we've heard the position of National Sports Council, where they don't want you to chair the meeting. And we read a letter from FIFA, which gave guidelines or a roadmap of you chairing the AGM. So what is your take? What will you do? Are you going to follow the FIFA directive or the NCZ directive?
Thank you for your call, Wezi.
Then on
sorry, Wezi, you're only allowed one question. Thank you so much. And you're our last caller, by the way. This is quite an interesting question there. The chairing of the AGM, there's two positions there. What happens going forward? Friday will be an interesting day.
Well, for me, where I stand, whether I chair the meeting, I don't chair the meeting, what is important is to have the elections, because I cannot fail to chair a meeting. I've consistently chaired meetings, but these issues are coming from other parts. I wouldn't want to comment so much on the directive that has been given. We obviously know the position. We obviously have an issue around what the Constitution says. But I'll answer this in a different way. We are coming from a background of having this debate around the mandate ending 4 years. And this situation we are coming from is exactly where we are today. So, we have a situation where elections for the rest of the 10 provinces were held between the 15th of March and the 27th of March. We should have had the last election on the 29th, and an injunction was secured, and it extended my mandate to the 9th of May. This is exactly where we were in 2020 and 2021. So, even in 2029, we are going to have this same challenge. You have a set of ExCos elected in March, a set of ExCos, the last 3 elected in May. Now, how do you reconcile the two? Are the ones elected in May going to accept to reduce their mandate to March? Are the ones who are elected in March going to have an extension into May? Until we get to 2029, that is my answer. Thank you.
So what will happen on Friday?
Well, Friday we have to have elections. So whoever is elected on Friday...
With regard to chairing?
Well, we will...
Because you said whether I do it or not, but then...
From where I stand,
where do you stand?
The members have to decide, and we proceed. The elections have to happen.
All right. Well, Mr. Kamanga, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right. Well, that is Mr. Andrew Kamanga, who is a presidential candidate of the Football Association of Zambia. He's been our guest here on the Hot Seat, Tuesday's edition of the Hot Seat. I've been your host, Chisha Mwambe. Look out for Thursday's edition with Peter Zulu. And that would be Thursday. We've been live on our Facebook page. That's Hot FM Zambia. We've also been live on Kwitu FM and also on Kanele FM. That's 97.7 in Lundazi. Thank you very much for listening. Stay tuned to Hot 87.7.
The station that speaks your mind. No filters, no fakes, just pure fire with top tier presenters. Hot FM at 20.
The heat is on.